So we usually just call you Bread on the stream because the whole thing is a mouthful.
It's a mouthful, yeah.
Do you have a preferred shortening that you would like, or is Bread all right?
That's fine. I told people they can call me whatever they want, as long as, like I can tell they're calling me.
All right.
I tell people to call me by their name if they feel like it. Whatever works for them. It's an old, like 15-year-old high school tag. So I was like, it's just kind of lingered because I needed. You know what the worst part about it is?
What?
Is that I didn't know Twitch was like one of the first things I made an account on, really.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, cool. I need like a gamer tag, so I just picked the crummy tag. But I didn't know that most websites and services are limited to like 15 characters or something like that. And that tag is like too long by like 3 or 4 characters. So I've forever been cursed. There's like 5 different shortened versions of it that exist across all my accounts because I just can't fit it all.
Yep. And then the moment you start trying to meme with stuff like seasonal bread, that's when it gets even more ridiculous.
I mean, I had to.
Yeah, of course. Before we hop into the match, the walkthrough rather, I just wanted to ask, like, because my understanding is that you are at least somewhat new to the scene, broadly speaking, right? Like, I feel like I've seen you on NetPlay for a couple of years at least, though I could be wrong there. I know I'd seen you in some of the SoCal brackets for a while, but like, how'd you get into Guilty Gear, man?
So I still do, not as much, but I used to play Melee. Smash Brothers Melee was like where I started. And I would go to locals for that. And they had this local in Long Beach that I would attend on Thursdays all the time. Rest in peace, Power 9. Hey. But in that lobby, they had a separate little lobby with a couch, and they would bring a PS4 and they would boot up whatever sort of fighting game they felt like playing. And this is like 2016-ish, like 2016-ish. So this is like when Rev2 was hitting still, like way harder.
And you said this is in Long Beach?
Yeah, this was in Long Beach.
Did you ever go to the house with like Super Effects and Nerd Josh and Tasty Steve and them?
No. This was like the only thing I would go to. I was like 18 at the time.
You were missing out on the one of the early, or I won't say early because Guilty Gear's been around for a long time, but at least for Sign, for Exerd, just in general, you were very close to one of the best places to play for a while in SoCal. But I'm glad you found it.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. They would bring it, and I had no experience with it. I thought it looked cool, and then one of my friends told me, he's like, you should just try it, and he booted up the mission mode for combos. I just said, like, pick whatever character looks interesting, don't worry about anything else. So I picked Baiken because I thought she looked cool. And I always kind of joke about it because I learned fighting games entirely through her and this game more specifically. But I don't actually, like, the irony is that it's like, had I picked this game up now, I would definitely not play this character. Like, she makes sense, and I love this character now. But most certainly, like, I don't play counter characters or anything like that in any other fighting game.
So if you were to like prestige your Guilty Gear experience and pick a different character, who would you pick?
I'd play Soul. I think Soul to me is like the coolest character in this game by far. I think he's just super cool the way he does dust loops. I think the hard reads that he'll have to get, well, not hard, but like the raw 50/50s of wild throw or like lows. Stuff like that. It's like him, or I wish I could place in. I don't think I have the patience to place in. I see Kizzy stand in neutral for like 3 seconds at a time and just press a normal, and I'm like, I can't. I have to run forward.
3 whole seconds. Kids
3 seconds.
Man. I think Baiken and Soul are actually closer than you might think, but I can certainly understand that, like, after, like, Baiken has a whole bunch of kind of weird shit to her. Soul is obviously a lot more straightforward, so I can see that. But today, let's talk Baiken. We're gonna hop into training mode here. So the way we usually break this down is we start with, like, we'll say roughly 3 tips for people who are trying to learn the character, and then go into like counterplay tips and some replay review from there. So, oh god, Christmas Baiken. What do you want? Either there are all kinds of different ways that we could frame this, but like basically maybe it's, what do you think more Baiken players should be doing? What are things that you've been working on lately? What is stuff that you want to show that people should be doing with this character?
Yeah, so I know we're doing the back-to-back, right? We just had Senior Children's.
Yeah.
Senior Children's was really good, and it covered a lot of like conceptual stuff with Baiken. So I figured to like complement it, I'm gonna focus more on like practical things you can actually do a lot more.
Cool.
That you'll like see pop up all the time that are like undeniably good Baiken things to do.
Sweet.
You might do them already, or maybe you're like trying to get better at doing them. But the first one for sure is like what I call high value Azami spots, because Azami, the way it works is just it's like Blitz but better, right? It's free. You can just go into follow-ups. Well, kind of like a side thing, if Baikens don't already know, you don't actually have to time your Azami follow-ups. A lot of people don't know that if you look at my inputs, I'm only holding one button for holding Azami. So while you hold one button, you mash the other. So you're actually never like you can hit me at any point. Right. So part of that is like
the follow-up only triggers on hit, right? Like you can't do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No,
got it.
Nothing ever happens if you're just mashing and they never engage with it. So Azami is like especially good when you know how the follow-ups work with it. It's at its best when it's around here. Azami is great here because it doesn't have very much end lag for some reason. So when people see this, two things happen. Either you're going to hold Azami or you're going to notice they didn't do anything and you're going to let go immediately, right? Like that. Because some people see it and they go, oh, I have to throw Azami. That's the punish for it, right?
Yeah.
And so in those situations, like I'll hold it and you'll try to run up like when this whips. And you'll see me do that, right?
Right.
So when you do it at that distance, people have to decide like, okay, do I want to assume that they're going to let it go or are they going to hold it, right? That's the threat of that situation. On top of the fact that like, should they just press a button, you just win. You'll just win by holding it, right? And these situations pop up like more than you'd think. You can FD into these spacings. A lot of the times this is a common one. With like if you're trying to jail someone for jumping and they miss and you do this, you almost always land in high value Azami spots like that. And people will just press a normal because you can against anybody else. Right, no one lands and presses a normal fast enough there.
Yeah, and I mean, normally against other characters, if you ID over me, I'm thinking I have the advantage, right? Because you are descending from the air. I can pick the right button for the right spot. You have less control over where you're going to be, right? But against Baiken, I'm like, oh, that was clearly my bad for pressing a button, and then I curse.
Exactly. But so the difference is like, the difference between that and this is if I do it here, Azami does have end lag. So I'm going to do Azami and try it, like look at her animation. And when you see the sword kind of going up, press 5K. It takes some patience. No, you'll see it. You'll see it. It's once you put the sword down. Yeah, see it like that. I'm going to block. It's not a lot of end lag.
That was,
But that was a true punish. The difference is like when you know they're Azami happy, you can kind of like wait for them, especially if they're bad about it and they do it close enough. You can wait because even in the worst case situation, they're gonna block. And there's like other situations where if I hold up back after the end lag, you'll even like catch me with like a 5K or something. But I'll never win out of that situation if you're waiting for the end lag. Is like a way you can think of it. That's the difference between that and here. Right, you don't have a normal that's gonna punish the end lag ever, like at that distance. That's why that's such a high value Azami. Same with so do like H teleport into like a button and then do 2K.
Okay. Wait, so you want H teleport button and that?
Yeah. Just like H teleport into like 2K, you know. Oh. Yeah, like you know how you like do JH on the way down and then 2K, like the normal thing that you jail people with.
Oh, that was bad.
Because the idea is more so like a lot of the times when people, this is like another high value, specifically this is a high value red Azami, is that people are really predictable when they press their next button after jump-ins because they don't have to worry about anything against anybody else. But with Baiken, you can red Azami that like every time consistently if you know it's coming. Because they're not going to really mix up their timing. There's no reason to against anybody else. So like that's another really good spot, and you'll see me do it every now and then, and it kind of forces people to wait in certain spots on your offense like that.
Right.
But I think this one's great. Usually, and by the way, if you pick this Azami in neutral, usually you'll pick running slash. You don't need invincibility this far away. The raw speed is usually enough that you'll whiff punish like anything. Yeah, Simo's saying he gets caught by this all the time. This happens like to Milias when they do H pin because they're plus, so they'll just press a button because it jails, and you'll red Azami the button. And what you do to counter that usually is like the person can just stagger their button a little bit. Red Azami timing is like similar to IB timing. So it's like you can just delay it a little, and it's most of those are like on anticipation, they're not on reaction. But that's like the first one. I'd say look for that. Anytime you're resetting in like far S range-ish like this, certain situations where like you whiff a button like here, those are all great high value Azamis because you can play that mind game with people. Are you going to hold it or are they going to run up and you can hold up back and get away? You know, it'll make it feel very frustrating because it just feels like you're getting rewarded all the time.
Yeah.
And like, they'll like never get a good punish on you, right?
And the payoff often, like, unless I'm willing to swing on you with something that might get fucked up, right? Like, well,
exactly.
It like unless I'm willing to swing on you with something big, then it's what I get a throw. Like, great. Exactly. I put you in another situation where Azami is a perfectly acceptable like option, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So those specifically, that's where it's at its highest value. Far S range, this thing is ridiculous in like far S range. And it's why it's like so hard. A lot of the times I tell people if you don't want to interact with it, just don't. Just let her do it. It's silly, but it's sometimes it's not worth pressing a button on it. Or like seeing it and then running up and throwing and she techs it and then she Azami's after the tech, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's the first one. I'd work on that a lot. There's plenty of high value Azami points. You'll like start to see them over time.
Kevin Tog is asking for the jump in one. Can the attacker on this? They can't throw us afterwards, right?
It kind of depends. You can, but that throw us is pretty hard to get. Because you gotta. This is even harder for Chip because Chip has like one of the worst throw ranges in the game.
Yeah.
But if you have like a character with a pretty good throw OS, you can like kind of do it. I used to tell people to try to go for it, but it's pretty tight, and if you mess up, you're almost certainly gonna get counter hit because the throw OS normal is gonna have like way more hit stop, and that's like part of what determines you getting counter hit.
Gotcha.
If you're that worried about it, you're better off just like waiting. Cause here, so like, do like a jump in JD, and then like wait like a microsecond, and then press like a button. That's a counter hit for trying to red Azami.
I see.
Right. That's like, the idea is like if you wait and they go for it, they're in counter hit state when they miss the red Azami. Yeah. So like instead of going for something fancy like a throw S, you might as well just wait half a second, and then if they went for it, they'll get smoked. Like I do it to Aether in the mirror matchup.
Gotcha. Also, quick shout out to Anthony Carboni. Thanks for the raid, homie. Knew y'all were coming back to learn how to play some Guilty Gear. Right now, we got West Coast best Baiken, HypedForSlicedBread, teaching us how this character works. That's what's up. All right, cool. So that was you were just explaining how to kind of really identify these high value Azami points, and it makes sense, right? Because like. The goal for Baiken, at least as I understand, is not, oh, you should be parrying every single thing. It's you represent this at the moments where it matters most. It can get you the biggest payoff, and it has a disruptive effect. But you're not trying to parry everything, right?
Yeah, no. A lot of the time, she has low stun, right? So you actually can't RPS with her very hard for very long. And you'll find that like. More often the threat, right? That's the idea. The threat of Azami is like more than enough. And sometimes you have to establish it by going for it more often. But the threat of it's fine. And also, you don't really like the thing that's messed up about Baiken more than anything else is she kind of fundamentally breaks one of the things in the game, which is
sure does.
She has stuff where she's minus enough that she would block if she was a normal character. But because they're not true punishes, because characters aren't designed to be truly punishable very often in this game, she always has that option. So it kind of adds this layer that I'm sure they understood, but just makes it like a nightmare to fight against. Because situations like this is -4. Like this always feels so plus in block strings, but it's -4. Like you can do that to people.
Yeah.
Because no one has a normal that fast more often. Even if you IB, it's -7. So if you space it, you're like over here. It doesn't even matter.
Yep.
But yeah, exactly. You definitely want to look for good points to Azami. It's something important to understand. That's like the first point.
Okay.
Next point, and this is pretty obvious, but I think learning to like incorporate it a lot is something like every Baiken can be better at, and it's specifically playing around this. Playing around IAD back to Tommy and IAD JS is crazy good. Not many characters in the cast have an amazing thing to deal with this, and it kind of just lets her reposition for free with something blocking anyone trying to chase her down. You'll often see me whenever the tempo of something is like slowing down a lot and my opponent's just looking for openings, I will just start doing this. I will just run up and I will just start doing this. Because you see how if you chase me down, you have to block the Tommy?
Yep.
It's like a free way of like punishing any form of aggression.
Yep. I remember Mystic was absolutely demolishing my ass with IED backdash Tatami for a long time because all I knew how to do was like try to run up and catch her, and I just navigating around Tatami is really hard.
Yeah. So if the moment you see me jump, I'm gonna jump and then I'm gonna do it. Try to like chase me down immediately, and you'll get me. You'll get me as soon as I land and go for it. You'll like see that you can hit her out of it if you commit to going for it.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to like do this to her if she. See, so like you can see that there's like that little gap you can sneak into, but this is the problem. If you do that, then I can do that. And so this option is phenomenal at covering like the startup and the gap that regular IED back to and it makes it feel like you will basically never get in on this character if she doesn't want you to. Some people have ways of getting around it, but for the most part, this is great because you just kind of do this and then poke behind it, especially with claws. Because most people's immediate reaction is, oh, I just jump over the Tatami, right? And so you'll see me start opting for that, like way more like that. And then it's easier if your character has good mobility. Some characters aren't as fast as Chip, and a lot of them will just get clipped in their jumps.
Yep.
And then you can do running slashes afterwards. You can even YRC this when it whiffs like that on reaction. Sometimes I do it if the angle looks wrong. You can often because you have a lot of time to do it. You can often see it and then YRC.
And so you were saying, oh, I use this to reposition whenever. Like, what are some examples of situations where Baiken wants to be backing out like that?
So I think the thing about Baiken's pressure is unless you let her get claw resets all day every day, Tatami is minus. So a lot of the times if you watch, so just block this sequence. This is like a really common thing I'll do to people. I'll do that and then I'll back off and then I'll do that.
I see.
Because this sequence is pretty messed up, especially if you're trying to anti-air her on reaction. You can see the disjoint on Kita Tatame is messed up. It is so messed up if you stayed in the corner, and you'll never really chase this down. So you can do like Tatami under, ID back, fall behind it, get back in. Tatami's minus. So Hirsch is saying it's -6. It's -4 on regular block and it's -7 on IB. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that's like a great spot where you want to reposition, because some people are really good at recognizing gaps that she has, right? So like a notable one is this always has a gap. So like as soon as I press, I'm gonna land and do close slash and just like hold up as soon as you block.
Okay.
You can just hold up like as soon as you block. And it should work. Anyone who has a 3-frame jump squat can jump out of the 2H gap.
You want that's not a true block. You want me to jump out
during
of 2H?
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So this gap is always here on that, on FARS, on 5K. It's always there. Where it's like, but it's not challengeable. No, if you're trying to press a button, it's not that big.
I was trying to blitz,
but
and I was like, wait, I have no meter.
Oh yeah.
But that would be blitzable, right? Because there's a gap. Yeah.
Yeah, you can blitz it too. You can definitely blitz it. I think it's good if you're a character like Mei. Holding up against this is like great. Because she has to start doing 2S a lot more, because 2S is the thing that's a true block string.
I see.
So you do 2S to get the similar amount of pushback, but not have a gap whenever you 2H.
Got it.
Which is why you'll see me, but when you do 2S, you kind of like force yourself into that Tatami ender, or that it all depends how good they are at IPing. Usually you don't need a reposition if they can't handle claw.
Sure.
But if they can't handle claw.
For players who are reasonably competent at dealing with the Kabari pressure at that range, that's you reposition because you'd rather get the approach and get your way back in, basically.
Yeah. Or even when it's their turn and I FD you out, if you whiff a normal, sometimes I'll just do that too. Like if you run up, do a block string, I FD it, and then I just, I'll just like Tatami out.
Got it.
Like, you can do that. I struggle to do them out of block, but like that repositioning is so fast and so hard to deal with for most characters. And like I said, when they chase you down, you can often just claw behind it for free for knockdowns. So that's, and then another thing that's like really, this is like why you want to learn to play around IAD back to Tommy and JS, or like IAD back JS, because Baiken is bad at getting out of the corner the way that other characters conventionally get out of the corner. A lot of people don't know. So this is Baiken's regular jump. This is her super jump.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so Baiken doesn't have a real super jump.
For
yeah.
comparison, yeah.
Yeah, so Baiken doesn't have a real super jump. which means anytime you've ever fought characters like Dizzy or Mei or Milia, a lot of their options that they'll go to is like super jump, IED out, and land behind strong options because they're coming from so high.
Right.
But she can't do that. So a lot of the times you'll see me actually just fight out of the corner instead by pushing opponents away and then doing stuff like that.
Got it.
Because it'll help play out of the corner for you. And then JS, if they're trying to stuff that Tatami, you can do the JSs instead.
I see.
Because a lot of Baikens will struggle in the corner specifically because they're trying not to zombie their way out and then they can't and then they kind of just die behind it. So I'd say this is like where it's best to play around IED back Tatami and IED back JS. Specifically like air dash back because it takes a lot more time to do this. You're in hang time a lot longer and you're more than likely going to have to YRC to not get punished for doing that. Where this is a lot lower to the ground, a lot faster. Your opponent doesn't expect it, and if they give you that much space, you can start kind of like clawing from over here. But I was telling Aether this too recently when I was watching his matches. I was telling him, look, man, you'd be surprised. A lot of people in neutral, when you just run forward and you do that, it just hits them. Like it just does. You can run forward, you'll get a knockdown like that, and you'll get Okazeme off of it. It's one of those things where it's hard to explain exactly why you do it, and when people start doing it, they'll be like, "Oh, never mind. People just get hit by this. Never mind. I should just do this a lot more." It's kind of free. If you want a good example of why this tests people's patience, I don't remember which one it is. I played CT and one of the Rev Tuesdays, and he smoked me for like 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
Because he was blocking like way more than he had ever done before.
Yeah.
And I got really nervous, so I was like, and I just started doing this into up claw, and he got hit by like 3 of the up claws. trying to jump over the Tatami and punish me for doing it, right? And that's like something that's hard to play around with her. That's like part of why you'll see the average Baiken do that a lot. So definitely do that more. It's good.
I can't think of another character that is so heavily encouraged to like IED backwards, right? It's funny to me because like this game does not reward you. On the contrary, it punishes you.
Yeah, exactly.
For
it punishes you for running away.
If we start from a neutral state and I do air backdash, air backdash, air backdash, let's see.
I think it's like 10 of them.
A danger, yeah, 8. I think it was 8 for me. It probably depends on the character a little bit because I think some of it is determined by like how many frames you're doing X action or whatever. But like I will routinely see Baikens do like 3 or 4 in a row, right? That's tanking your meter gain pretty hard, but it's such a good idea for her in neutral that it's okay.
Yeah, usually you want to gauge how much you do it, right?
Yeah.
Because that penalty, but it's more so like if you had the opportunity to reposition in neutral, potentially get a combo if your opponent overextends, or just have complete control over what you want to do next, and your opponent can't really do much to punish it, why wouldn't you take it? Is kind of the idea, right? Like think about all those times someone is just like around this range and you're just like trying to hold up back, right? You're just trying to get away.
Yep.
It's worth noting, by the way. So if go to like restart really quick. This is air dash back, right? Look how far this leaves me. Right now, restart again. Look how far air dash back to Tommy leaves me. It leaves me like a half step or 2 farther back.
Yeah.
It actually pushes you farther. She's in hang time longer because of the Tommy. So you really get like a full reposition out. And she has a lot of control over it. A lot of people don't know you can do. So this is at the end of it. You can have it flop as she's landing like this. And this is good for like Oki if you do it right. You want to hit it like at the end of the Tatami or at the end of the air dash. Versus doing it while she's flying, she'll travel farther like that.
I see.
So there's like a little bit of nuance that goes into it too. But generally, you will want the fast one. You will mostly want the fast one in neutral. You don't want that slow one, so people can't run up and punish you. But yeah, that's that point. The next one is this one's pretty advanced, I'd say, but it's worth like understanding because it's so core to like once you're capable of doing like Yazansen and Kita Tatame on command, the next thing you want to do is you want to be able to space all of your Tatamis perfectly like that. Because she has a lot of control over how she does this. So like for example, do like DP on this on Lego, right? That's me being a little too close.
Okay.
But I can do so like a lot of people aren't gonna recognize this unless they're you, right? See? So she has a lot of ways where she can kind of like space the Tatami based on what she wants to punish. And there's counterplay to it, but your opponent almost certainly doesn't know it
Yeah.
And if they do, you can just RPS with them. But the idea is tatami has 2 hits. It has this initial flop where it hits you like that, and it has this secondary hit like that.
Yeah.
Where that one doesn't actually pop you up. If you get hit by that, like you'll see it doesn't do anything. It's just a hit.
Oh wow.
So a lot of this has to do with that. A lot of the times when you're spacing farther tatamis, you'll never pop them up, but they are usually safe to like any kind of reversal.
I see.
Like a DP kind of reversal.
Do those hit meaty enough that you're able to actually combo off that hit if they
yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
like don't block. Feel free to not block this. Like you'll see the claws just combos.
Oh wow, yeah.
Right? So she has a lot of control over that situation if she's good at spacing the tatami. And this is true for like any kind of knockdown. Sometimes you'll be kind of close to the corner, like not in the corner, but like close to it.
Yep.
Or sometimes you'll have these knockdowns and you can opt, like you can do this tatami set and fuzzy off of it if they stand block.
Just like that.
But you can also do the one I usually opt for because it's lazier, but it's just more consistent. Is you can do just a regular jump back tatami like that, and it has so much plus frames that you can often FD and then still press the button.
Wow.
Before unless they're IBing. But I mean that's on them to do that.
Right.
Yeah, so Rolf is bringing up. I know that blitz is like a common thing because if I misspace it, people will blitz it like that. But that's the point. If you space this, this never loses to blitz ever. Funny enough, there's kind of like a mind game that goes into.
I tried to blitz.
Yeah.
I also tried.
And like I said, it's messed up because.
Fuck.
No, you're good. Chip is kind of weird to time it on.
Yep.
I have to be a little patient against Chip. It's also very scary because the tatami is hitting like so meaty, you will often reversal too early. And I see people get caught by that like all the time. But like for reference, all of these are pretty much like outside the range where blitz would help you.
Yeah.
Like if you tap blitz, right? You're not gonna get a reject state off that.
Okay.
Yeah. So you want to be able to do this like off everything. Like sometimes I see Baikens do this, and this is like a bad habit because you don't get a knockdown off of that.
Okay.
Learning to recognize spacing so that you can do because there's weird ones. So like this is a weird one. You need to space a tatami for that, and you have like a bunch of different ways that you can do it. Or sometimes I know I do this one a lot. There's a lot of different ways that you can space tatami. People see me often do the thing I stole from Baiken where he does delayed air dash off of jump deal like this. It just kind of gives you perfect spacing automatically if you do that in Takeda tatami. But if you want something easier, a lot of the times you can also just do like what's the other one? So off of JD Ender, you should be able to do full IAD tatami like that, and it kind of hits. It's kind of hard to get, but it's easier than doing like a delayed air dash into like the Takeda tatami. Same with if you have trouble doing like micro dash like this in Takeda tatami. You can also just hold up back like this and then air dash forward in tatami, and it's a perfect spacing. It's the difference is really subtle, but the ones I go for are generally the better ones because you have way more control over like exactly where you want it to be. It's like, well, I'd rather be like one step closer because she has kind of finicky knockdowns. Like sometimes stuff like this, if you hit it from like too far or depending on characters' hurt boxes, it doesn't knock down all the time, or like the hits. So like this will never knock down. So that's why like that spacing on tatami is so important because you have to ride the line of, okay, I don't want to get hit by blitz, but I also want to be close enough that my confirm is just really automatic. I don't have to like struggle after that. And this is like so important to know, to be able to do this because she just keeps looping offense if their opponent is greedy. Like if I'm fighting a soul and I think, oh, you're just gonna volcanic viper, I'll do the spaced one and I'll do claw like that. If you volcanic viper, then it just whiffs and I just get a punish, and it's the exact same situation again. Right.
Gotcha. I like the call out on the kind of the value of the different setups because I would imagine that a newer Baiken player is probably a little intimidated from doing some of the optimal shit that you're describing. So seeing, oh, you can get something off of just like an easy jump or back jump or whatever, but here's the real shit that you get when you get good at the Kide Tatami or whatever. Like that's important, right? Like especially if you're a newer player, trying to bite all that stuff off at once is just a little bit much.
Oh yeah.
It's why I tell chip players like not to go overboard,
not to go crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I know. She's a lot. I know at one point I got so, because I told you I didn't compete in this game for the longest time. So in my bubble of like friends that played this game, I used to get smoked a lot, and I used to not be able to do those things. And eventually I just grinded it out and I learned them, and I kind of forgot what it feels like to not be able to like do the input on command.
Yep.
To the point where I'm kind of like, oh, why wouldn't you just do it? Right. But I forget, that's like something that people can't just do, like running those on all the time. So this was why I tell people, I'm like, hey, if you want, you can just do this setup and then do like air dash and like that. Yeah. That's a lot easier than usually like linking the air dash and then going straight into Kita Tatame.
Yep.
Or the throw one, like obviously you're gonna get throws as Baiken. You can do hold up back, air dash forward like that. And it sucks because you can't do it like near corner, which is why I say like knowing it for every situation is important.
Yeah. Because
if you're stand like here, and like you'll see like, okay, how do I space this Tatame? I can't do this. This is blitzable now.
I see.
So you'll kind of learn, and that one's easy. You just neutral jump like that.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean about like learning to be able to stay blitz safe specifically all the time is like usually the very big thing. Because that is mostly what people expect to do against Baiken, and you can do it like on the other setup, right? Like off of this one, you can definitely do it where she crosses you up and then she does the Tatame like that. You can definitely do that blitz. And it's why I know before I saw people and they would go, hey, I wonder why he does delayed air dash all the time, or why he does raw sweep. That's why.
Yeah.
Because I know people blitz it all the time.
Yeah.
But that's super important, and it's one of those things where if you have trouble with it, just like mess around with it. You don't have to obviously do Kita Tatame's like on command. She has some easier setups you can go for. If you can learn anything that stays like blitz safe, that's pretty much like all you need. And then that extra fancy stuff with like, because I do this and I do micro dash Kita, I can pick how close I want to be. Like that's blitzable, but it catches back dashes.
I see.
Right. So there's a lot of nuance that goes into that. You just want to learn how to stay out of their range, but hit them with Tatame. Yeah, those are like the things I would say that I think are like hard to do, but definitely worth learning.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. It's a great, just like kind of, for as much work as it is to be able to do that stuff effectively that you've described, right? Like finding the right blitz points, spacing the Tatame that effectively, and learning how to use like instant air backdash Tatame. Like none of those things are things that I would say are like, oh yeah, all you do is just do that, right? Like it takes a while to learn how to do that in this game, especially against every character. But it's anyone who's interested in Baiken, hopefully watching this stream or this video, can just check that stuff out. And like it's like kind of like you were saying, it's you don't have to do all the hard stuff up front, right? You don't have to do the perfect version up front. Just starting to use these will give you an idea of how to use these tools like better than just watching the video. So that's awesome. Yeah. I hope new Baiken players are even more annoying because of this shit.
Yeah. Exactly. I would say don't get discouraged. It takes a long time. It took me a long time to get used to it. It took me so long I'm not willing to relearn it, because Baiken is the only character I play on a PS4 controller. because I started learning fighting games and I didn't want to buy a stick at the time, obviously. Right. So I learned it all on PS4 Fat. I'm not learning it on stick. That's a lot. I'm not doing that again. So I play every other fighting game you've ever seen me play on a fight stick, but not this hilarious. One character. Yeah. Well, so I have to carry both around.
Well, for what it's worth, as someone who spent the last year relearning how to play every single fighting game on Hitbox, it's not actually that bad once you get used to it. And you might find that there are some things that actually get like a little bit easier for you to understand when you've had to learn how to do it on multiple devices. That was actually one of the things that got me playing on Hitbox was there were some things that I couldn't learn how to do with chip on stick until I learned how to do it on a keyboard. It was stuff like the uncling alpha, where I wasn't thinking about stick movements precise enough to hit uncling alpha, but I figured out the timing on a keyboard because it was a lot easier for me to vary a timing by a very like subtle amount. And once I learned the timing on keyboard, then I could take it with me back to stick. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So if I learn how to play different characters in games with different devices, I actually learn like kind of different ways of thinking about them.
Yeah, like the singular input. Like I've had someone talked about it with hitbox. They said they would do the key to tatami input, and then they would like, because hitbox players can move their right hand over for the jump.
Right.
They would just do it and then move that over, and that's the up input, and then they would press forward again. I was like, oh, that's cool. Must be nice.
Hirsch saying in chat, I learned how to do 5H carcass on pad first by accident before learning it on stick. It helped me to get the timing. Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, we're advice against, right? I gotta teach people how to fight my character now.
Tell us how to deal with this piece of shit.
Okay, so I want to warn people, because I mentioned it earlier. The fact that Azami is this makes it way harder than it needs to be, because all those points where she is like challengeable, she can always represent the option, and it complicates things. But there are a lot of things I think I do that people would benefit from, like sort of taking a step back and like looking at the situation.
Sure.
The first point is like, I can't stress how important it is generally to just IB her later options.
Okay.
Like she'll often do like block string, and then when she's like kind of to her S normals, like S, far S, 2H, all these are all pretty good to IB for different reasons.
Okay.
It's same with like claw. That claw is so important to IB, not because it's like, oh, I get a true punish, but because it changes my perspective on the situation so much. Like it's with Baiken, it's not about like, how do I block her so that she has to give up her turn, where it's like, how do I block her so she just runs away again because she's too scared to fight me more.
Yeah.
So like I am notorious, me specifically, right, for just doing like multiple of these in a row. And the reason is because I'm plus. I'm only +2, but you're not gonna press a button. I'm plus.
Right.
So it's like, you're gonna jump, you're gonna backdash, you're gonna blitz, you're gonna do all these different things. So I just get to do it again, right? Where it's, if you IB this, I can't just do that like without worrying about you pressing a normal now, right? Like if you so I'll do like 5H, you can IB, and I'll try to frame trap you, right? Oh, you can press like 5K at that rate.
Okay.
Yeah, same. So that's the idea, right? And obviously I can Azami that. I can just backdash. I'm only -2. It's really, to put it in context, this on IB is the same as this on regular block.
Okay.
Except the spacing is different, right? But you can think of that mind game as being similar. Which is why like IBing the claw isn't about, oh, I'm gonna take my turn back. It's about like, well, now she feels scared to like press a button all the time because she's minus. She has to consider Azamiing or running away. Or it's more about that than anything else. Because you'll see me, like, look at the risk that this cranks, dude. One claw does that much risk. So it's like 2 claws, that much risk, right? So she kind of starts racking all that up really fast. And if you keep not IBing it, it's the same situation, and it keeps getting worse for you. Right. I've seen some people try to bait me into doing 2 of these so they can throw me, and then I just do that, and it counter hits them. Because the idea is the same. Like, I'm still plus. I can still just play the situation differently.
Right.
But if you see me do that and you IB it, all of a sudden I might just do that randomly because I think, oh, I see the IB. I don't want to mess with that. Or I'll do backdash into a normal. And if you IB and then you run away, then yeah, you're not going to get hit by claw into claw. Because a lot of people will backdash the plus frames, which is why I do a second like that. Because I'm just not willing. Or they'll mash again without knowing. They'll mash out of the range of it, and they'll get caught, right? It's ironic because this isn't like a good frame trap at all, in that it's like, it's only +2 and this is like 21 frame startup. Right. So it's actually a terrible frame trap if you just press like an S button, but you're not, because I'm plus. Right? Makes sense. It's that threat. You want to reduce her presence on offense. Same with Tatami. Tatami's never going to really give you a punish unless somehow you IB it and you're point blank, which is like very, very rare. But if you IB it, I'm -7. The chances of me trying to press a button are like non-existent. I'm either gonna like run away or Tatami, or if I think I spaced it really well, sometimes I do Tatami YRC right after for like the disjoint on it. Like the only situation I can think of is like if you IB this Tatami, right? So like I'll do that string. Sometimes I'll do that off the IB.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of force me into like feeling pressure to do things like that to maintain my turn on those IBs. That's why I say it's hard for her, because at best, a lot of the times a really good Baiken can salvage a situation by spending meter and sort of resetting offense in a really good way, like off stuff like that. But you still kind of force her into spending that. You make her feel pressured into committing these options earlier. Where normally if you block this string and you don't, like just IB that, I can do that for free. I don't have to worry. I can even just press I can even just do this, and it's pretty good at catching a lot of different stuff. because I'm not scared of you taking your turn back off of just -4. So I think it's like super good to do that. Same with this button. This button is +2 on like normal hit. God forbid I space it. If you can hit with this in the later hit, it's like +7. That's still the first hit. It's like around here, I think. For the second hit, it's something like that. But in general, this is normally like this sequence is +2.
Okay.
So I can just jab deliberately. If you IB it, it's -2. Right. So if you can IB this sequence, then I won't get to jab for free, right? Is the idea. Yeah, I know it's super tricky because she has those big gaps in her block strings.
I'm more concerned that I'm getting like double inputs on my back or something. Because I don't know how I'm getting a backdash there, but there we go.
Right. So I go from being, minus or plus to minus, right? And it's kind of like the same thing. Like she has counterplay for plenty of stuff. Like if I see the IB on 6K, I can go for Tatami immediately and it'll frame trap you. But then if you just keep blocking it, then I'm Tatami point blank, I'm -4. I'm probably gonna block like more than anything else because I'm really close. Like that's -7 if you somehow got that,
Yeah.
So focusing on that stuff is like super important, and you'll even start to force her to do stuff like this, right? Start to like, oh, okay, well if you're just gonna IB these, then I don't feel like using them anymore. I'll just go to other stuff instead. Another situation, I guess this is like transitioning into the next point. The first one is just that, just IB those like really important normals like 6K. Same thing. It's meaty 6K. You can't meaty the active frames because it's only invo on startup.
Okay.
So you have to not meaty it with the active frames, which means if you IB this and she's always doing this to bait your throw on wake up and then pressure, if you IB it, you can just go for the mash if you feel like it, right? And that's like a really common thing that Baikens will do like that. So all of those are like subtle points where you can at least make her think about it. You want her to not just like get free plus frames all the time.
It's funny to me that you describe this as like, oh, this is what you do to make Baiken uncomfortable in her strings, and if she gets uncomfortable, then she'll do shit like Suzerain, right? Because when I think of Baiken players, I think of Suzerain as the layer 1, right? Suzerain is like the thing they do by default, and then they do other block strings once they learn that Suzerain all the time is not going to work.
Dude, it's 28 frames. Just throw it. I always joke and I tell people, just throw it. It's like 20. You can throw. So here, you can throw me out of this. Like before I can do anything. I'll do when I get to 5H. I'm gonna do Suzerain. So you can throw me out of that before I can throw you. She's stuck in this animation, which is why it's important that you space it. But like I can't do. You can see my inputs. I'm trying to throw. I can't. Right? I just can't. But obviously the mental stack is the factor, right? But funny enough, it's the opposite for me. When I do Suzerain on throw, I'm desperate. I need you to get hit by it because I feel like I'm out of options. I need to just kind of like cheese you a little. But that IB stuff it's good for because of that. Because you want to. A lot of the times you'll see me run them up because people can't stop that stuff, and it's just it's not super hard to confirm off those situations, and it's not super hard to keep going forever if people can't stop your plus frames. I'm pretty sure all of her plus frames, like if you IB them, they don't become plus frames anymore. The exception being the space 6K, but that's pretty hard to get on purpose. So you can kind of like tell that's what they were going for those things. And then the next thing is like, I always talk about recognizing. The next point is like recognizing all of the points where you can challenge if you feel like it against Baiken. There's a lot of them you would never expect. So like block this. That's never a true block string. Like raw, that's never true. You can always press a button on that.
You can press a button in between, like I can swing on the ID,
right? You can do it pretty late. A lot of the times people ironically press anti-airs, but you can press like 5K because the Tommy isn't out till she touches the floor.
Ah, okay.
So you can anti-air this pretty late, and it's still like a viable option. You can even throw it. It's hard to show with chip because your throw range is tiny. So it's like usually not worth going for with chip. But with a character like Soul or anyone who's got like normal throw range, you can actually throw her out of it.
Yeah, it's funny to me that 6P doesn't seem like a great option here, but all my other buttons are working.
Yeah. No, normally anti-airs are not the button you press against it, ironically enough, because you just take so long to do it. The easiest thing by far is if you reset to get meter, you can blitz me. Pretty like easily on reaction because it's such a distinct animation if you get used to seeing it. That you can usually, and I can never space that. I can never, even if I Y or C, I'm still too close.
Right. You're just right up in there.
So like it's not that this option is bad because of that. It's that people just have to be willing to. Like, you can throw her out of that if you're a madman. But that's like a really important point. Even if I do this, block the whole sequence, you know. Even if I do that, that has a gap. It just doesn't look like it.
Okay.
So this is gonna be tough, but I'm gonna try to do Tatami YRC and then do it, and then try to like blitz it.
Oh, all right. I'll try and blitz it.
It'll take a few tries to get like used to the timing. It's a pretty unique timing, for sure. Oh, see? So that's and usually we do it off of Roman cancels, because like people think it's like, oh, this looks so real, you know, like Tatami into Kita Tatami. But it always has a gap. You can DP it if you're meterless, like in your meterless character. You can also just opt to DP the gap. But anything that isn't blitz, I've found, is like pretty tricky to time. I don't have meter. It's pretty tricky to get the timing.
Oh, I tried.
But yeah. Again, this is something you definitely like take this to like a training mode, and you're just like, okay, you know, let me record one of these, like find the gap kind of thing. But that's like that gap, you can blitz it. If you have normal throw range, you can throw it. You can mash if you feel like it. The problem is her rotation of options, right? Don't think it's free, because I can just do this. And like if you're waiting, like you'll probably get hit by that. Like do the blitz on the jump, and you'll see what's gonna happen. Oh wait, actually, you go low, right? Because you can do jump H, and if they blitz as soon as you leave the floor, which some people do because they do it on reaction to her jumping, they're like, oh, I don't want to hold anything, then it happens.
I see.
But just know that's like if they're just like Tatami happy, you can challenge it. Same with another challenge point, but like you have to actually get it, is if I do this. You need to IB that. That normal is so messed up. You need to IB that, and you can throw me. Guaranteed.
Okay.
A lot of people fall for this, like all the time. I'll do like delay air dash like that, and then they'll just throw, and they'll get caught by the low, because it has so much blocks then. But if you can manage, no, it's messed up. It's normal.
Oh, I keep on getting that back dash.
Right, so like that wouldn't have worked. That's like what's so messed up about it. Is she puts you in these spots where it's like, if you... Wait, are you throw using? You're crazy.
Yeah.
You can just do 4H. I would just do 4H if you see the IB, because she can't really like do much about it.
Okay.
But yeah, you can definitely get her there. And you might wonder, like, okay, why would you do it instantly, right? Why wouldn't you just do this? Because if you delay it, it doesn't matter if they IB. If you do it like on the way down like that, it doesn't matter. Hold up as soon as I do, you know. See? Like, so it's like that's why you do it. If I delay it and you hold up, you'll jump out. Yeah. And most people just kind of hold up back against Baiken. It's like an autopilot thing for them. So she'll commit to like the jump H instantly, but if she commits to the jump H instantly, you can IB it, kind of like get a throw off of it. Knowing the counterplay to like her various options is like so important. Same with she can do 2 jump Ps in the air like that. If she does it off of an air dash, she can do that and then that. But there's a gap. You can press a button. It's like really tricky. She'll do the first one, and then before she does the second one, there's a gap. No, you want the first one whip. That's the thing, because the first one catches if they jump out, right?
I see.
So it only catches if you jump. If you stay crouching, it actually doesn't. If you want my advice for the situation, because a lot of people struggle with her in the corner, it's like, know that Kita Tatami is fake, and then usually delaying your rise is pretty okay against her. Like blocking, like crouch block, and then don't do it instantly as soon as she IDs, do it like a second later. But be careful, because this button is a menace. That's why you don't want to get caught by that. That one's fake. Reset to neutral. This is another thing. This is like a really common one. I think this would help people. This also has a gap. This is like, I poke people with this all the time, all day, every day. That has a gap that you can blitz. Same with if I pick the jump S or the jump H off of it. The jump H is better than the Tatami because it's harder for people to blitz it all the time. But it still gets blitzed and stuff. And a lot of the times Baikens will kind of sneak us in neutral a lot like that.
I see.
Alternatively, you can go ahead.
Whenever I've messed around with Baiken, I'm always struck by how oppressive JS feels when I'm playing against her. But when I'm playing as her, I'm like, oh, this feels a little fragile. You know, like it's not as unfuckwithable as it feels like when you see her throwing it out all the time when you're playing against a good Baiken.
Yeah, it's definitely it's about like knowing how to use it. It's really good at like this angle. You always want to use it at an angle where like it pokes like where it beats anti-airs. It hits kind of like low at the feet. And Chip's like a harder example, but like you can definitely do it if you do it like at the right angle like that, or it just doesn't engage with them like that. It's pretty much either you're always poking with it really shallow, or you're just hard committing like that, or like the two versions of it. But that's good. You can also just crouch sometimes against her so that she'll whiff and you can throw her out of it, right? But that's like higher level Guilty Gear stuff. You can like jump and throw her, or if you have a button like 2H, you can 2H it. But sometimes you'll see me look for that with Baikens that are like lazy in their neutral, and they'll do stuff like, oh, I just want to IAD and jail you, so they can do that, you know? If you stay crouching, it'll never hit you. And if she ever lands next to you, so if you crouch there like that, you can throw her when she lands. She has enough landing like that she can't just hold up back. That's like another one. Don't forget for anyone fighting her, this is whiff cancelable. I don't have to hit you. That's what's messed up about this claw. It's whiff cancelable, so I can just do stuff after. So it's like RPS. This isn't plus. This isn't plus at all. It's like minus.
Okay.
But the messed up part is if I space it, you won't get a punish. Much less if you FD it. But like, is this running slash when it's spaced?
Yep.
Like just block, and you'll see what I mean. That's only -7.
Okay.
So like you don't have a normal, right? Like I can't press a normal, but I can usually block before anyone would hit me.
Right.
If you IB, it's -11. Chip can technically sweep it and get like a true punish on the IB. But what I'm more so saying is like a lot of people will fall for this, where I will whiff the claw and they'll go, oh, he missed, and they'll hold up, and that happens. Right? They'll get caught during jump squat frame.
That is pretty fucked up. That's cool though.
It's pretty messed up. A lot of the times it's worth, if the Baiken is like knows how that kind of stuff works, you want to just stay grounded and like IB that running slash and then press like fall rest, you know, like challenge her, or just like know it's gonna happen.
Right.
Same with like Tetsuzanten. They can happen on whiff. That's what I mean about like knowing points where you can like challenge or when not to challenge is so good against her, because she'll sneak in her turn and make it feel like she goes forever otherwise.
I mean, even just knowing that those are whiff cancelable is like, I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
you gotta sit in place. These aren't links or nothing. You just do it. So it's great. People will see you whiff and they'll press buttons and they'll get counter hit all the time by that.
Oh, you're saying
but that's
sweep,
whiff cancelable.
Right? Okay.
Oh yeah, you want to try it? It's pretty hard to get with Chip. I was practicing it. That's a true punish. I was holding down back.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool. Chip gets a true punish. You need an 11 frame normal. Most characters, if they want to commit the meter, could like far slash RC, but it's kind of a waste. Mostly she just gets a lot of control off this. But if you IB that running slash, I'm not gonna keep going. I'm gonna usually stop.
Right.
If I space it, I'll do tatami afterwards because of the disjoint. And then the other things would probably just be the last thing in terms of challenging her is like when you IB this, it's the same as blocking this regularly. So you don't always want to press a button on that because a zombie exists. You know, like I can just zombie you.
Right.
And, chances are you're not just gonna like jab into nothing, so you'll get counter hit, right? So it is RPS when you block it, but just try to pay attention to what she does. You know, does she overextend by like doing like, oh, you know, if you IB this claw, so like. Does she like continue pressing buttons? Does she do a lot of the times on IB? I will backdash like that, just to kind of maintain space and see you whiff a normal. And if you do that, then you can just overshoot, right? It's still pretty messed up, like that she's only -2 here. But paying attention to like what happens after Kabari on IB is like really important against Baiken. Especially because if they just the zombie, then you can just back off. A lot of people just want to get away from her, right, and play neutral again.
Right.
That getting her to feel like she needs to do this and then running away when she does it is a pretty viable option, I'd say. Depends how good your character's neutral is.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I know one of the things that I've been trying to do more against you whenever I play you in like net play stuff is I tried to put less emphasis on playing the RPS in like advantage situations like knockdown and aim more for Well, if I can intercept you in neutral, if I can catch you when you're moving or when you're trying to attack, then it is much less likely that you're going to be breaking out as Ami, right?
Exactly. Those cookie cutter situations off RPS stuff, like, oh, I'm only slightly minus, it's all so susceptible to this option, right?
Yeah.
And then this is like, for the last point, I would say learning to interact with the zombie is like my last tip against her, because it's gonna happen. She's going to zombie you.
Yeah.
So knowing how her follow-ups kind of work and maybe trying to bait her into doing different stuff is important. Because only the stab has invincibility, unless they're doing super, and no Baiken does super. No Baiken ever does super.
Okay.
It's too expensive. So only the stab has invincibility, but if you jump, it'll never hit you. Like if you just press a button, because you can still jump cancel as on, it'll never hit you.
Word.
And she's counter hit state, so you can feel free to like press a jump D on the way down, and it'll counter hit if you do it right.
Wow.
That's just the true punish, right? And the idea is why would you pick invincibility? Why would you pick that option? Why not pick the other ones? Well, the other ones don't have invincibility, so now just like hit me with like 5k.
Oh.
Just like mash it.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Oh.
It should work, I think. Yeah. See. So no invincibility.
I think you were too close, so you just passed through. Try that again.
Yeah.
Like if I'm.
Oh, it might be. Maybe. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's pretty funny. But yeah, so like normal block strings normally, like as long as they're gonna connect, the Gatlings are usually fast enough to stuff me like that. See?
Right.
That's why you don't. That's why you don't pick this option all the time, because it's fast. Yeah, sometimes it counter hits you, sometimes it doesn't. So as the opponent, like on a zombies, like on a wake ups and stuff, you can kind of assume for the most part they're gonna pick the stab. So you can feel more comfortable doing like that. If you have a low profiles go under it.
Okay.
But like jump cancel is like an option, and they're gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna let him jump cancel. I'll do the running slash, right? Like that. Sometimes you can jump. Most of the time you shouldn't. It'll do that, but the Oki off of that is not that good.
Right.
So that's what I mean about like in spots where you feel like you might have to interact with it, not buffering normals and stuff, and sort of like taking simple knockdowns like the running slash is pretty okay. Like it's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah, that's still a counter hit.
Yeah, it's dependent. It's like how much hit stop the move has or something like that. It's like look, jabs are like better.
Yeah.
But like that, like you can see my frame advantage on this is like not that much. Right, like I kind of get it to Tommy, but like not really, because you can like I think you can blitz that maybe.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I had no idea like how Baiken's different follow-ups worked. I knew that there were some interactions that worked like that, because one of the changes that I'll make when I'm playing against Baiken is I'll go for J2K more often than like a FTC.
Yeah.
Just because I know it's more likely to stuff some of the follow-ups, but I didn't realize the stab was the only one that had invul.
Yeah, so it's the only one with invul, but it's like 18 active frame, or sorry, it's like 17 or 18 frame startup.
Oh, okay.
So it's really slow. It's usually dependent on you being stuck in like hit stop for it to like hit you out of stuff. So it's weakest on wake up.
Okay, that's what happened.
Oh, what trade? Because of the invincibility. But you would beat the other ones. You would beat the other follow-ups if you're all good. Because of the invincibility, right? Some people have done that to me in matches. But I mean, I can side switch, Yeah. Oh, sorry. I guess someone would correct me. The side switch has invincibility, but it's not a strike. The only strike with invincibility is the stab. The side switch has invincibility, but it has end lag. It's only invincible for the first half, and then it has end lag that's counter hit recovery. So like a lot of the times, in response to things that are like safe jumps or stuff, they'll pick the P follow up.
Okay.
Because P is the fastest. P comes out instantly, but it is like just block. Like pick like 2P and block,
All right, 5K doesn't work. Nope.
I think 2P should be fast enough.
Nope.
If not, usually like know that safe jumps are like a good example of this.
No, that is straight hidden. Oh, whoa. Okay, interesting. So that was just because you
delayed
your
I'll pick it late. I'll pick it late, just so you can see. But like off of safe jumps, that's like why you don't want to pick this follow-up.
I see.
Because on whiff, it's just bad, right?
Right.
Like on block, it's the worst one. At least the other ones like aren't terrible. Also, I guess I didn't know where to throw it in. She has this animation for 3 different situations, which is weird and like annoying to fight against. But everything out of a zombie is minus. Like if you block this somehow, like do like gamma, Y or C.
Oh, okay.
That is minus. It's like -8.
Yeah.
The stab is like -11 or something like that. And then obviously this is like super, like it's just, that's actually not minus when she lands. It's like the whole process of her whiffing is what you want to punish. She's only like 6 frames of recovery on that when she lands like this uppercut. She's not very minus at all.
Yeah. But you get that entire travel time.
Yeah, you get that whole animation to prepare, right?
Oh, and Bab was saying
true.
Bab
has a point. Yeah, it is always crouching recovery for like Azami stuff. Whenever she whips this, or not. Which one is it? I forget. Yeah. But that's kind of like something to keep in mind, because as long as you're not getting counter hit all the time by this. Oh, that's the thing Bears does. Bears does that.
Oh, he does alpha play. I wonder if that's how
he does alpha play. Yeah. I'm not sure how he does it, but I know he gets through.
Bears is a lot of wild ass situational OSs.
Unique tech, yeah. But just keep that in mind. Like, if you're having trouble with the stab, you can jump it. You can actually jump the stab when she's going for it. Maybe not in like a zombie spots, but you can definitely jump that and neutral jump so that you get like a good punish on it. Because she can't do anything. She can't RC on whip. It's like DPs, you know. Yeah, always pick a fast normal. You don't want that. You don't want a hit stop, like preventing you from getting punishes. Yeah. That's not a punish. You can do it pretty early and it'll like hit me, so yeah. But that's how you kind of force her to feel like doing other ones, and that's also why those other mid-range ones are such high zombie spots. Because if I'm standing here, then it doesn't matter what the startup is anymore on this, because you don't have any Gatlings fast enough off that hit stop. But when you're close range, right? Like Oki's.
I want to see what happens if I Gatling 2H. Yep.
No, it's definitely not gonna work. Trust me. All the S normals are like too fat, but like they will always get caught by this. Are you trying to punish it?
It's like, can I do like a jump cancel into a blitz and then?
Oh no, it's not fast enough. I remember I tested that one. They're usually not fast enough. It's mostly because she's acting during that time you're striking her.
I see.
That like you can do it on that probably because of the startup being so slow. But I'm never gonna pick this follow up at that distance. You know, I'll always pick the fast one. But yeah, when you're in those situations that you kind of have control, like you're standing right there, you can always press a button and like jump if you want to. Just she can throw you, you know, like if she just blocks, she can opt to throw you.
Yeah.
But you can do that. Obviously, some people do roll 5D. Honestly, it's not even that bad if you're confident she's gonna Azami. You can just roll 5D. Because none of them are bad on block. You just have to like stop, you know. Like you can't keep pressing your turn on a block 5D. I would say mostly that. Like know that like how to play around the zombie follow-ups. Helps a bit. Right? Like the stab can lose to like characters with quick jabs or jump cancels.
6P.
Or 6Ps. Yeah. I know Eno is like really good at 6P moves. But obviously gauge that like in moderation. You don't want to like always just RPS versus her. It's more about like don't treat a zombie like this magical thing that just always wins.
Right.
You want her to like feel pressure.
Thing that kind of wins, but you hate it. So.
Yeah, exactly. But those are the things I could think of that are like concrete that you can work on. Other than that, she's just kind of like a menace. Just kind of does a lot of stuff. Like, dude, what do you do to this? Look at how that like. What are you supposed to anti-air that? At this distance, like you can't do anything about the space one. You have to run up, and if you run up, you'll just like jump fast.
Yep. I have had a hatred in my heart for this character since 2003. All right. I would like the best player at the barricade was a XX Baiken, so I had to deal with fucking Baiken when she still had the guard cancels and shit. It was fucked up.
That stuff's messed up.
Yeah.
That stuff is different. I don't even like. Okay, we can move to clips while we talk. Well, we move to clips. I'll talk about. I don't actually like plus R Baiken that much. I think she's like way less. She's got cooler combos by far, but I find her like so boring to play because she's just so good and simple that there's not that much to it. It's kind of just like, wow, that really is just that good. like Exert Baiken has a lot of like, oh, I got a 2H to kind of leave this gap and catch people holding up because they're kind of far. I got to control space with up claw, but plus our Baiken's tatami is like so good. You just like tatami all the time, you know. You like don't really think about it. You're just like tatami. You do two. Why is 2H plus? 2H is plus on block.
All right, I have a lobby up for people who want to play games. Brad, you're welcome to hop in here, but let's go through the. Actually, yeah, Brad, let's get you in here so you can play games after we're done going through the replays. I don't want to stop people in case they want to start mashing now. So I'm gonna open this up right now. Let's see. Watch. Okay, there we go. Way to go. All right, we will start with. Okay, give me 1 second. Stop this. All right. This one doesn't time code. So let's see, where was it? 22 minutes. 22-1. All right. Almost.
Like you're getting chopped.
Oh, I need to go back and watch this one. Let's see. 2.
It should be losers finals.
Okay.
For the first one. I want to say.
It's,
yeah.
Oh, it's U and Y, right? Okay. Then they'll be, I think. It's weird. Time's a little off. Okay, here we go. All right. So I'm gonna send you the link. You should be able to steer from here. We'll rewind just a little bit.
Maybe, but all right.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
All right, let me. Okay, cool. Oh, you want to mute it? Let's mute it.
Yeah.
So I know I tried my best to pick a few clips that kind of show a few different things. This set, just look for a lot of the IED back to Tommy, the IED back JS, and a lot of the high value Azami stuff. Because Johnny obviously is a character that like he's just gonna press 5k, right? And you have to see that coming. But she doesn't have to respect on minus situations. So you're gonna see it like constantly. You'll see me, and a lot of the times early against Johnny, I just won't overextend as much as possible. Yeah, see, so like only 2D reaches there, right? So I'm only concerned about, okay, well, he's either going to do this or maybe he'll throw a coin. But if he throws a coin, I'll react and I'll do the fireball instead. See, only, you know, like those situations where I can clearly tell you're in frame advantage. And I need to sort of establish that idea early. No, you can't just press a button off of like raw frame advantage, right? Say like that idea, like even I being the claw there, not recognizing the spacing, you'll kind of see like he gets caught by the second claw, right?
It's a very like I won't let the sign stop me because I can't read kind of moment.
Yeah, and then I've long since learned that I'm a privileged character. I don't have to fight Johnny in neutral most of the time, so I will mostly run away from him as much as I can, and like deny him that level. Also, I guess a bit of a side note for anyone who doesn't know, you can burst this. You can burst this like splash, depending on the spacing. Sometimes if she's a little too far, only the tatami will hit you, and you can't burst those. But most of the time, like if she hit you with the stab point blank, as soon as she's like splashing into you with the tatami, it's a guaranteed burst point. If not, when I don't have 50 bar, this jump S is burstable on hit. Like on hit, you can just do it. If I have the 50 bar, then I can RC on reaction and block. And you can always choose to burst as she has to air dash in, and there's nothing I can do about it. But the funny problem with that is that you're banking on the Baiken hitting the link. If they don't hit the link, you just whiff your burst, which is really funny. But is like the reason I tell people not to do that burst all the time, because we will drop the combo. Don't just assume that we'll hit the combo. And then anytime you get hit by like any normal and you anticipate the claw, generally the best response is to delay your tech forward. Teching back and teching neutral will often get hit by the claw.
Okay.
And even if you faultless, I don't really care because I'm plus.
Right.
If you blitz, I know some people like to try to blitz it. I'm not a big fan of it because I could just do different resets.
I think I tried to do that against you last time and it didn't work, but I don't remember why.
Yeah, I would say the reason is just she has a lot of different types of resets. Like I don't have to cancel. Off of Far Slash, I can do 2S and you'll tech. And if you blitz, I'll see it and I'll just whiff punish you for it. If you tech back, I'm not minus off the 2S, so I just like Tatami to jail you. I've played her long enough that I'm really comfortable with a lot of the resets based on how they tech. But if you anticipate claw, a lot of the time teching forward, specifically like delayed, so you go through the claw.
Right.
If you do it instantly, the claw might catch you. If you delay your tech forward, you will usually like kind of tech into her before she can pick any of the follow-ups or zombie or do stuff.
Or you can do that. Oof.
Yeah. Oh, and then this is so cheap. I forgot about this. This is like beyond cheap. So where is it? So obviously he blocks this Yozansen, right?
Yep.
The way this works is this isn't meaty. Like this isn't like, or sorry, this isn't a true string. But if you continue to block this Tatami standing, that's another fuzzy. Right? It's pretty messed up. What you want to do is crouch block, and when she air dashes, like react to it and hold up back. But I'm not gonna pretend that's easy to do.
Right.
But just know that can happen. Even if you block your Johnson in the corner, I can usually do that to Tommy into like another fuzzy, and it's pretty messed up.
Damn. Okay.
It's keep an eye out for it. But I've been playing some people, and they've been getting better at dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would mostly say, and I think we skipped it. Game 1 is a really good example of
did we start on game 2? Sorry, that's my bad.
No, you're good. We can watch the next one. The next one's like the same thing because it's also Johnny, so you'll see a lot of the same stuff. But it was the only one I could think of, I want to say, where Effortless is still like one of the only people who like grinded defense on Baiken enough that you'll see a couple instances of him like forcing me to back off. Or like willing to play like some of the RPS associated with it. I think this was losers finals.
Let's see. It's you versus Fu. Damn, I'd watch that one again.
I think she beats Heian. I think that matchup is tricky for Heian. Because pretty much like all of Baiken's neutral tools don't interact with Tuner Ball like at all. It's pretty crazy.
All right, here we go.
Oh, also, it's at game 1. You didn't see it, but Baiken has a pretty juiced option versus versus Johnny at round start. Okay. If you far slash against Johnny at round start and hold up back, if he coins, you hit him for doing the coin and you block it. You like jump cancel on a block.
That's nice.
So it's
that's
a really quality of life thing, because more specifically because like it hits them if they do nothing at round start. Like it'll force them to block, and you're already holding up back. And I've already explained like how good she is off just running away. Mm-hmm. That it usually makes them feel pressured into pressing like far slash, so that you don't get, because his is faster, so you don't just get to far slash them, but then you can just Azami, right? And then like she can kind of pick that a good bit at round start, and his punishes to it aren't super duper good because it hits him out of 2D too.
Oh wow.
So
okay.
he can't kind of like get a coin out of that situation. The best he can usually do to punish you is far slash misfiner, and that's it.
And that's nothing. That's
right. That's like nothing. So like she kind of gets to press far S quite a bit against him at round start and just hold up back if she feels like it. It's a pretty cool option that she can just kind of like flex on him at round start. I also used to dislike this matchup a lot, but I don't mind. Oh, was that the FG? So okay, say. How do I go back? Oh, there we go. So I think I messed it up because of the FD. This is pretty messed up. I found out, this is another reason I do the late air dashes. If you do this correctly with Baiken, you can hit him at a height with JK, where if you JD, it's an F Shiki. And if you just go low, you'll just hit him low, and you'll do the exact same thing again. I guess the downside is if you F Shiki and they block it, then you're pushed out, so your turn's kind of over. But I don't know. I think it's a pretty cool option. Yeah, like you're still safe, so it's like I've never really cared. It's like he gets caught by the F Shiki.
Yeah.
it's like super easy to do to John.
And it's like it looks kind of low. Like it almost looks like that's not what it is, you know?
Dude, it's messed up. It's like so messed up. But here's a good example, right? So he always faultlesses me in a way that I whiff a lot, which is also pretty good. But you'll see, like, as soon as he IB'd that Tatami, he committed to 6K.
Yeah.
Right? Had I held up back, the 6K would have caught me. Had I backdashed, it might have caught me. But we've played before, so I know that he's really smart at noticing IBs. Mm-hmm. So I commit the option early that I'll just Sakura. Like, I'll Azami Sakura. But that's the kind of RPS that you can, like, enforce if you're confident. IBing her in spots like that. And then, like, that's one of those things, right? What does Johnny do in that spot? He's going to press a normal, right? And because of his limited movement, you can do those Azamis quite a bit against him. Because there's not too much that he can do. By the time he's dashing up, you can usually let go of Azami and try to take a throw.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, if I see you Azami, I could reasonably run up and throw. and there's enough other things that I could be doing during that run up that, hey, maybe I didn't throw, maybe I went for something else, but there's at least a little bit of a game there. And with Johnny, because he's committed to the dash, it's like his ranges are a lot chunkier, you know?
Yeah, he is usually forced into the raw 50-50 if he feels like it in playing it. You're either holding this Azami or you're letting it go, because he reaches you from that far, right? So if he guesses right, you know, oh, he let the Azami go, and I press 2S and I guess right, then he'll get rewarded. But the idea is that like other characters can play around that and he can't, right?
Yeah.
And then I try not to do this as much. I'm surprised I did it. I guess this was like I learned to stop doing this against Johnny, but his plus frames are so blatant off of ZYYRC that it makes for very easy red Azamis.
Sure. Because
you just know the timing for when they'd start their next block string usually. Same with here, right? Like I just know he's gonna JK to jail me. And then that part's tricky. A lot of the times you want to end your knockdowns with Baiken in a way where you don't hit the wall. Hitting the wall off JD is really bad from mid screen because they always get to tech. And it's kind of interesting because sometimes so I said I do delayed air dash forward.
Yeah.
To beat people doing, or to space my tatamis after JD. There's actually a few situations near corner where you don't do it, or I don't do it. Because if you air dash, you move the screen positioning and they will actually bounce at a very low height off of the wall and you'll ruin the knockdown.
Yeah.
So there's a few situations where you actually can't do it and you'll just see me not go for it and do an alternative tatami set. Yeah, same as before, right? Those spots kind of, funny enough, are pretty tricky for Johnny to deal with because he is so used to pressing normals on reaction to people running at him.
Yeah.
But a lot of Johnny's find out the hard way that because his normals are always big normals, he never gets to misfind or cancel in time. The running slash almost always hits him. And if you don't do anything, you can sometimes not get counter hit because of the raw distance between us. But if you misfind or cancel, a lot of the times that input counts as a buffer and you'll get counter hit. So it's pretty funny that like the thing that he's used to doing is always like very terrifying against Baiken, and she pretty much gets a lot of reward against them.
Right.
A lot of the time for that kind of thing. But yeah, see, so like another example, right? You see, like after that IB, I know that he responds to IBs a lot.
Yeah.
So I was willing to test him again, and he waits it out, you know.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, like you would only see this happen between me and him generally, because I know he spent a lot of time practicing those IBs. Oh, and then that's pretty cheap. I know I messed it up. This one's always tricky because it depends on wake up timings. So you have to be like careful, like delaying it sometimes. But this is blitz safe, and this is supposed to catch the low blitz if you time it right.
Oh wow.
But it's tricky to get. No, it's cheap, man. A lot if you can sniff out when people are gonna like do stuff like that, you can punish them pretty hard for it. And that's out of throw range, so he has to block if you do it right. Like you'll clip them jumping, you're out of throw range, so they can't throw you, and if they pick any button, they'll get counter hit because it's meaty. Oh, that one's always funny. That's always funny. I do this exclusively to Johnny sometimes, in certain spots. This is gonna sound pretty funny, but in spots like this where I think he's gonna like dash forward, sometimes I'll just press a normal and press RC behind it.
Sure.
Because if he doesn't move forward, nothing really happens, and if he moves forward, it won't come out at 25 meter. It just so happened that he pressed a very big normal, so I got to punish. And then you can see that's just like everyone should do this versus Johnny as much as you can. Baiken is very privileged because he can't just mash H normals to crank my risks nonstop. But I mean, if Johnny is this close to you, you kind of don't have a reason not to input a throw. Under most instances. Effortless, as far as I know, is the only Johnny that's like sweaty enough that when I fought him, he would do. So he knew I would throw him on reaction to dashes. Yeah. So he would actually do dash TK's Y, and it perfectly blows up. It perfectly blows up you teching on reaction or throwing him on reaction. And it was the most upsetting thing ever because I was like, dude, come on. I found like the one thing I can do against Johnny, and he would just raw 50-50 me off dashes every now and then. and he would just combo off it. So it's kind of like funny that he's the only one. He's never done it like in a tournament circumstance to me, but he would do it in friendlies, and it was like the worst feeling ever. Because that's hard to do, man. That's like that's like really hard to do. But other than that, right? Like you'll see me usually just kind of sit and block, especially as Baiken, because it's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna throw me, right? So I try my best to just wait. Oh, and then laser beam's always good. Can't hate on laser beam. Raw laser beam just catches you doing anything in neutral. As soon as I throw, what are you gonna do?
Just fucking do it.
Just do it. It's only 28 frames. Only 28 frames. I like it because a lot of the times people are so ready. Like I said, at round start, I mash Forest a lot, right? So he's waiting. He's like waiting for the Forest in the up back.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, she's just running at you with armor, you know, and she just throws you. I forget. It's pretty messed up. I don't think Johnny is one of them. Kind of like a fun tidbit, but I'm pretty sure there's a few characters. It's based on your weight, like how far she chucks you off of this.
Oh wow.
But some characters are close enough away from the corner that when I do this Kita Tatame, if I do another one, it instantly crosses up. It hits on the other side. There's still the gap. There's the gap I talked about, so you can still blitz it. But if you're not used to recognizing the gap anyway, then it just hits crossover.
Right. Or if you want to swing on them, then you might get crossed up and
yeah, some people get hit by the back of the Tatame. It's pretty funny. Oh, and then I would probably only ever do this to Johnny, I'd say. Johnnies are so comfortable like creating gaps like this. Like I saw the IB, but I was like, 5K doesn't hit me from this far, so I'm just gonna do it again. Because Johnnies don't usually press S out of block, right? That's such a bad button compared to 5K that they would rather just backdash into an option and catch you overextending. That I just did it again. You got caught. If you can space it perfectly, the claw into claw, even if you're IBing, it's still pretty tricky to deal with. And then I think, as far as I can tell, I would say I'm probably like the one Baiken that tries a lot more to do this in neutral. I think the Cannonball is pretty interesting because it's really slow. It's like 30-something frames to startup, and you can't wire see it before like 25 frames.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it was that slow.
It's real slow. It's just one of those, when people get hit by it, it's like deer in the headlights kind of thing. Like you're expecting so much else that when she kind of like stops in front of you and then fires this fireball, you don't expect it. But it's plus. It's actually +5. But I like it in neutral. One, it goes under a lot of stuff. It's designed to be low enough height that it actually goes under most of the fireballs in the game, like pretty much most of them, including level 1 misfinder. It actually goes under misfinder. You can't misfinder this fireball. So a lot of the times what I'll do, but it hits
Grand Viper? Excuse me? Jesus Christ.
Does it really? I didn't even know that. That's pretty funny. I had no idea. But the reason I like it is normally she can't really play super well off of it. Even off the YRC, it's usually not worth committing that much meter.
Yeah.
But what I do is I will often fire it. People will jump on reaction to the fireball.
Yeah.
And I will Kita Tatame it for the space behind it. So I will kind of like force people to be above me and then slowly try my best to take screen positioning off of it. You'll see me do it a lot to people that like to hang at full screen specifically. It ends up like covering a nice space. And if you do the Kita Tatames, you'll see that they're like so disjointed that it's very hard to like interact with them when you do it right. And then there's like another instance of you like situations like this, right? Like that only didn't hit me because I do IAD back to Tommy. It actually just makes me smaller. Doesn't get hit by it. What 50-50, what are you gonna do about it? Well, the messed up part, like I said, is a lot of times in those situations, I anticipate that people don't know what I'm doing next. So even if you block it, I'll do the Tatami and I'll do the next 50-50. Right?
There's layers to this shit.
There's so many cheap layers to it. It's actually crazy. Johnny, by the way, is tall enough. He's one of the taller characters. And on the taller characters, you can actually re-fuzzy them if you feel like it. I've been practicing it more. So what you do is you do Kita Tatame and you do JP, JK, and you hit confirm it from there. So if they... Actually, no, you don't even have to. Yeah, because Jump K combos into Tatami. So what you do is you do Jump P, Jump K, Tatami. If they block the high, but they continued blocking high in the Tatami splats and they're standing, it's another fuzzy. They just get a Shiki again. If they get hit by JP, JK, it combos into Tatami anyway. So if you ever get like bored, you can load up like Amaruken versus Omito like session because sometimes they play, and he will just hit him with like 3 in a row, and it's like it looks so. I've never actually felt bad for Johnny, but that might be one of the times. It looks messed up. Because those guys are playing on 6 rank cabs.
Yep.
Or whatever. So it's like, dude, there's no shot you're reacting to that. But I think the last clip is just me versus Marlon from the last time we played.
Let's see. I only have 2 clips for you.
Do you? Here, I'll
so
link
if you have the
one
third, feel free to load it.
I got it. Yeah, I got it in chat.
Man, it's funny to hear the depth to which you understand the offense and defensive interactions, because it absolutely makes sense to me that a Baiken player would look like that. That's where a lot of your gameplay is, right? A lot of your gameplay is, I understand that I have these block strings. You understand that you have these block strings. Whether it's finding opportunities for a high-low or a red Azami, or looking for opportunities to Azami out of a negative situation or whatever, like. It makes sense to me that you would break or that Baiken players in general would break the game down in terms of those kinds of interactions, because that's where most of the juice is for you. For me, I'm like mostly focused on like the intersection of hitbox and hurtbox, right? we are tracing geometric spaces, like shapes on the screen, and my goal is to get my red boxes on your green boxes, which is obviously, as a chip player, like that's the reason I play the character, is because I don't want to think too much about like branching interactions. I just want to put my thing on your thing better than you can put your thing on my thing, so that you get hit and go tumbling because I hit you with JD or whatever. And so
there's a lot of red on JD.
Yeah, but so when I dig deeper into these insights from other characters, I'm always like, oh, but that sounds like a pain. I just want to move around better than you.
I mean, so there's like those branching interactions a lot of the times, but I do have moments. I talk about it. It's like sometimes I just have moments where it's like I'll just Azami, or I'll just use it on throw. Like the complexity that she has only really stems out as much as like your opponent usually will like interact with you, but she has small brain moments all the time too. I tell people all the time, like, for as much as like people think that you have to think about like, oh, you have to know your opponent's character and you have to know your character, and it's like, yeah, but like there's just some spots where like you do the same stuff, and like Tatami is so oppressive in most instances that like my hitbox is just this disjointed thing that hits you meaty all the time that is reversal safe in most instances. I want to say this is,
oh, here we go.
I gotta check the timestamp. I think this is like game 2.
Let's see, you linked me to about 2 minutes, so let's take it here. All right.
It's whatever. I think he's like up a game. Yeah, we can go from here.
All right.
So like little things. Yeah, see, like Marlon knows it's fake. I know I picked this one. I want to say it's this one or like the next match. Also, that burst point.
Hey, what up, Peter?
That burst point is not for the faint of heart. Don't burst JK in the air dash unless you're willing to just RPS with her. Because they will notice it. So I usually do it, and then I'm waiting. You think I'm teching during the combo? No. I'm waiting. Do sterilization method. Drop your combo. Right? So it's one of those things where a lot of the times I know that people say like, why would you burst instant air dash JK? That's terrifying. Well, it's only terrifying because they have to think about it. You got to make them think about it at least one time. So I do it against Marlon, and I was like, okay, he knows I will burst JK now. And it was great. It was great to burst it there too, because I know that he has to cross me up in the corner off that burst.
Okay.
So it's like even better for that reason.
Yeah.
Zontan's cheap. Also, I forgot, this combo does not give you far slash on lightweights, but the rest of it is true. You're supposed to do like dash jump S, I think, on lightweights. It's always kind of like a pain in the butt.
Maybe he was
struggles a lot
to delay attack, and you just didn't give it to him.
So I just didn't give it to him. Yeah, against Eno, you'll probably see a lot of the tatamis, right? Like the tatamis, the fireballs. Like I need to litter the screen for you, make you feel like you want to come in with jump H and then press jump S, like intercepting you. Marlon's a monster, by the way. He delays his text and then specifically texts like in place. He doesn't pick forward or back so that he can just throw you. He picks like the greasiest thing to counter you trying to throw text. And he throws you in the corner for your trolls. That one's he kind of knew what he was doing. So if you can't tell what he did, he picked VCL YRC there because he was trying to. If I had gone low, he would have smoked me.
Right.
Or sorry, if I had gone 2K, I went low, but 2D.
But 2D is big enough that it got hit.
You know, so 2D is actually like her go-to Abare option versus, you know, it hits flight like.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I do it like twice in this set where we like counter hit trade at one point.
Huh.
Because it's like it's just so good to do. And then you use Zonson, lightweights pick up height like really fast. And you will not get a knockdown against them under most raw hits. Which is like part of the reason why like I had to get good at resets in general at one point, because it's like against a lot of the lightweights, even if you do the right combo, they just build too much height. They're not in stun long enough. They'll tech the ender. They'll tech it after you're actionable, so you're like kind of plus. But I'm not a big fan of doing it because if they tech forward, you'll just end up in the corner.
Right.
So a lot of the times you'll see me just reset early with calls like that. Because I still space control from there. 2H is also really good against Eno a lot of the times. Because it'll destroy stroke. It sometimes low profiles her doing air normals because it's like above the knee invul after a certain amount of frames for some reason. And it combos into stuff like this. And then at that distance, you don't get a combo anymore. He's too far. Jump S doesn't combo. So I do jump forward, jump H to catch neutral and forward tech. And then he doesn't do anything, so I have to YRC it. I get really lucky. I didn't notice this until I went back and watched this again. That he actually inputted VLC, but the input gets crossed up. So he doesn't get it. He gets ticked by jump S. And when people get ticked by jump S and you land here, they're more than likely going to jump. This is why, like, I know a lot of people always wonder how I hit air claws all the time, and it's because people jump in the same spots, like subconsciously. You know, this is one of those things where it's like human nature kind of kicks in, and so here the reason people jump is mostly because, like, especially a character like Eno, she'll just like mix different options on the way down, like FTC stalls. But also because like you just kind of anticipate her running forward off of you getting hit with jump S. So you're like, no, this isn't plus enough to hold me down. I'm just gonna jump up. And so the caller just catches you. And then the messed up part about that situation, more than anything else, is definitely like I've gotten so good at like forcing this spacing and RPS against people where even if you don't jump, I'm just gonna do the running slash. The running slash hits at that distance. So it's like that kind of space control can feel really like suffocating to fight against a lot of the times. And is why like it's hard to do, but I think I struggle the most against people that are really patient and will wait out all my little tricks that are good at catching impatience. Like I've said before, I think the person who terrifies me the most to fight on West Coast right now is probably like Hirsch. Hirsch does not flinch. I cannot get Hirsch to flinch at all. Hirsch is probably the only person. I think Hirsch blocked me with the 100-meter in the corner one time. I was like, dude, come on. They're two 50-50s.
He just stares at you, and you're like, oh, I mean, I thought maybe you might swing, and he's just like,
he just holds his charge, dude. I know, dude. He just holds his charge, and he's like, what are you gonna do? If you're gonna air dash, I'm just gonna crouch. It's like I'm fine. I'm not gonna worry about it. So like people that are good at waiting out all those things for me are like they scare me. Like I've spent so long fostering like this skill set that is like, oh, I'm so good at catching people who are trying to run away too quick. Specifically like too quickly. Oh, you thought it was over? No, it's not over. And a lot of my game plan is like that's why I'd say like most people say like, wow, this is a really aggressive Baiken. It's because it's just tons of time like spent building up that skill set of like, oh, people always jump out here. Okay, I'll practice like always being ready for that situation.
Yeah. I mean, when other people play against Baiken, it's just one of 20 matchups or whatever that they've got. And so they'll be like, yeah, I'll jump out here. And it's a little bit easier to not remember all the times you got sniped, right? But for you, it's like every single time. It's kind of like Chip players knowing how people respond to OTG Gamma Blade or OTG in general, right? Where it's just
like tech back.
It's just like we know what people do because for when we play against people, the time they spend in OTG Gamma Blade situations is like a fraction of the overall matchup, right? But for Chip players, it's like everyone does like one of three things, and they usually don't mix it up that much. So as long as you figure out what the one thing is that the other player does, you can go in on it, right? And like it works until it doesn't. It's obviously not the greatest idea all the time, but for like low to mid-level players, it's just like, yeah, I know what you're gonna do here, and so let me air throw you, or let me get the mix, let me get the 6H reset or whatever.
I was gonna mention a point earlier. I had forgotten.
Yeah.
I don't play card games.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny. People think it's really funny that I play Baiken and I am very risk averse. I hate gambling. I cannot, like, it gives me anxiety to play like poker in like a casino.
Yeah.
But I've always talked about, so like in response to that, a lot of the times when you watch my gameplay, I probably don't Azami, like if you watch like even just Marukin doesn't Azami like that much, but he still Azamis more than me. A lot of the other Baikens will play the RPS situations way more than me. And so what you get when you watch me is like, I always say like, I don't play poker, but I know that there's that idea of like counting cards.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of the times, if you see me gambling, I've just been counting cards the whole time in the match, right? It's like, how many times have you round started Forest? Okay. You're probably going to round start Forest again. How many times have you held up back after the claw whips? Oh, you'll probably fall for this.
Yep.
So like all the times I'm committing to options, it's usually like I'm usually against newer players. It's the hardest for me. If I've never fought someone before, it's usually the hardest for me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my playstyle is centered around how do you respond to the things that I do specifically. Yeah. And I have like all this branching theory that like I'll play around for how you respond, but I don't know how you respond yet.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times you'll see me at my most reserved when I'm usually fighting new opponents. Well, if it's like a tournament environment.
Consider this something to keep in mind for Frosties. And by the way, congratulations on to Beppis Max for picking up the hottest Baiken on the West Coast. I'm a big fan of Pepsi getting drunk on stream commentary and then backing his way or talking his way into excellent decisions.
You have no idea how funny that was to watch the following morning.
That's why I told you after you left that match. I was like, "Hey, just watch the replay."
The archive. Because I went back and I forgot I did that to Bears. I didn't like. Sometimes I'm so focused in a match that I don't remember.
Yeah.
You know, like having comebacks like that.
Yep.
Then like I was like, wow, I really did rob Bears. I was on a pixel.
But yeah, like. The thing is, obviously, it's been dope to have you in the Rev Tuesday pool, and it's been dope to see you on net play. The thing that makes Baiken particularly scary in brackets is usually that you don't know, like anyone playing against Baiken doesn't know how Azami heavy they are, right? And like some of it is they, you know, you might not know the Baiken matchup well enough to understand, hey, these are the nuances, these are the like the high value Azami points, and so you want to avoid those, blah 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 blah, right? But some of it is also the player, right? You can never tell. You can make some assumptions, right? But you never tell. You can never tell for sure until you play against them. And with you, like if you can't reliably download people in a best 2 of 3, then you're gonna and like, you know, that is its own constraint, right? Like you're gonna be playing in brackets with lots of people you probably never played against, and figuring out like, oh, this is the risk profile that I default to while I'm figuring you out, right? Like I would assume in general that most people are going to be scared of Baiken. Most people are going to be intimidated. What that means, whether they like panic rush down or panic like withdraw, I have no idea. But seeing you at Frosty is going to be super exciting. I'm hyped for it. I am also very curious to see how you do when you're thrown into a pool with people you've never played against.
Yeah, I think I'll be fine. Let's get through this replay. And I'll talk about it a little after. Also, misspaced my tatami. That shouldn't, you know, I'm bad. I can't always do it perfectly, but that's why it's important, because, you know, Marlon gets a turn off of it. And that's what I was talking about. Oh. All of a sudden, like, you know, he has to go for all these baits because he's worried. Yep. It's like, this guy burst last time. But I was surprised he went for it, honestly, because I had the round. I was fine. Sometimes this game is like a game of restraint. There's so many rounds you have to lose sometimes in Guilty Gear with like 75% bar, because you just can't, like, especially against some of the characters in the game, you can't guarantee that you're going to win neutral again. Yeah. So you just have to let it go, you know? Yep. Also, IADJH is super funny in neutral. So it's just like this giant bubble of space. It pushes her back too, right? And it wall bounces on counter hit. So that's like why I do it more than anything else. The knockdown's cool, because if you just get straight hit, I get a knockdown and I get a tatami off of it. But if for whatever reason you get counter hit, it wall bounces. So I get a pretty juicy combo off of it. And if you can just spam them in neutral, a lot of times people don't expect that Baiken. They don't know like what she's doing.
Yeah. The movement for her afterwards is so weird too.
Yeah. And then I like this option quite a bit against Ino specifically, because Ino's a character that struggles in neutral, right? So she's going to set up note when you give her distance. So sometimes as soon as I'm done with IAD back to Tommy, I'll just load the gun. I don't even wait. I just load the gun. Marlon probably could have held forward and he'd like hit me for this, you know, kind of thing. But I just assumed, I was like, okay, you're going to set up note, right? And like the note still comes at me, but you can see the frame advantage difference, right? I should have picked jump S here. I didn't expect him to move forward with the jump H. But if I had picked jump S, it actually stuffs it. And then I've noticed, I'm really fortunate that I have a friend who plays Ino, so I've played them quite a bit. So I'm more comfortable, like, in certain situations like this, just based on how far she is, I know, like, I can probably backdash and I'll be fine.
I was wondering about that. I was wondering who you, because, like, I don't know if there are any regular Ino players in SoCal. I don't think we get many in Rev Tuesday. And so I was wondering, because you clearly showed a deep familiarity with the matchup, and I was like, I wonder where we got that from.
Yeah, I play Sea Leaf Dojo a good bit.
I see.
And only, like, realistically, only Marlon is like sweaty enough to do like a bunch of like FTC pressure.
Yep.
But certain setups with Ino are exactly the same. Like the situations are same across the board. It doesn't matter how good you are.
Yeah.
If Ino knocks you down and she does like a mid-screen air sequence and she does like what is it, like HCL VCL, and she knocks you down and you land on the floor, she's only capable of like doing air dash forward, or sorry, like dash forward and then air dash forward. And you can usually backdash that or blitz that. It depends what the Ino does, right? So like those situations are inescapable if you're an Ino player. And so certain things like that I was ready for against Marlon. I was just like, oh, you know, what do people normally pick in this situation? Okay, I'll pick the other thing that Ino's probably not going to expect it, kind of thing. Like a lot of the times, I want to say at that distance, you're so far, Inos think you're going to backdash, so they pick like jump S and it catches the backdash off the air dash. But if you blitz it, they almost never expect it, because then they're used to people not sitting still and respecting that kind of distance.
Right.
And I know, like, okay, your level 1 is the counterplay. So I'll like, you know, I'll start on the level 2 because it's pretty likely, kind of thing. It's one of those like they don't think I know kind of things. And then I was out of air options, so it's like I just have moments. Like exactly. What's gonna happen here? What's the worst thing that could happen? I was gonna get hit anyway, honestly. Sometimes people pop off about his zombies, and other times I'm like, what do you like? It was my only thing. I'm just gonna mash it. It's gonna happen, you know. Oh, and then that was probably unnecessary. I won't lie. That was probably unnecessary. But I figured he'd press a button behind the note, and I got right, but I missed the combo. And then jump S is so cheap. Jump S whiffed in the combo and it recovers fast enough that you can descend with jump S again if you do it right. It's pretty hard to get. It's not exactly easy to get that perfectly, but that's so cheap. And then stroke is just stroke, right? So like it's like something like this, right? I know that his mix off of this isn't actually that good. If he wants to go for real mix-ups, this note's only gonna hit me like 2 times. So more than likely he'll go for like a 2 high into like a low, or like a 1 high into like a low. And so like from this distance you can usually play pretty reactively, which is funny to say against Ino, but it's like a lot of the times her better mix-ups off like FTC stuff are fake. Like I know the first game I played against him, he wanted to do like cross up FTC JH or something, and as soon as he started crossing me up, I just held up. It's like, I know this mix-up isn't real.
Right.
like I know it's not meaty. You have to go low, and you don't want to go. You don't want to go low here. You want to do the cheap thing.
Yeah. I think knowing that every time the Ino player goes for like a empty dash into a low, they're like, oh man, I didn't really that wasn't the thing I really wanted to hit. What I wanted to hit was the stupid fucking triple high mix-up that lets me get a sick damage combo instead of low into like now I don't get shit damage. Makes it that much easier to like see through it, you know.
I always assume all the time Inos just want JH, because JH is such a fat starter that I'm like, you don't want JS.
It feels so good. Everything. I mean, JD is cool, but JH, when you hit that, you're just like, oh, it's like swinging a baseball bat, you know.
It's like 30% of your health, dude. It's like all they want. You know, there's a point in this set where Marlon goes for a fake combo because he hits me with I think it's like S stroke counter hit, and I get the stun, the extra stun, and I mash out because he goes for JH. Because nobody mashes out fast enough on JH and JS combos. I know it's a true combo, but off of JS he has to do like it's like JS like 2P 2K 2D TK note. Like that's it.
That's
doesn't
so
get
fun.
like. So he definitely had a lot of moments where I think he probably didn't anticipate. Also, I have to lab. I don't know what to do against this super as Baiken. She's pretty cheap. So if you don't know, she has like counterplay like everything. So Bedman super. If I think Bedman's gonna super, I can do Suzudon, and he's actually not gonna recover fast enough. The uppercut's a counter hit. I did it to GC Yoshi one time.
Nice.
So as long as you see it coming, you can punish Bedman for it. But I don't think he knows the same. I think she's even more plus. So I'm actually not sure if I can do like Suzudon through it. Same thing. Like I'm out of options. I'm gonna Azami. I whiffed both my ground normals. Like, what's the fastest thing that happens? It's not blocking. Azami. Those situations happen a lot, and a lot of it is like practice reactions, obviously. But it's more like a Twitch reflex than anything else. You're just like, oh, Azami, Azami. There's like a one frame situation. Azami. Just do it instantly. Oh, and then this is a good example. Oh, this is it. Yeah, that's it. That doesn't combo.
Yeah.
So that combos on jump S, but you can see him going for 6 PR because he wanted the fat count
big
combos.
damage,
Yeah. But there's another thing I talk about. You cannot panic as Baiken in the corner. You just have to chill in the corner. You have to like people will give you a space eventually. You're Baiken. They'll give you space. If they don't, it's very obvious what you do to them. Right, but like you'll see, like a lot of the time, I'm still not fighting out of the corner because of like the positioning. I get caught like matching Azami. Still just waiting. And you see me like jump to Tommy, kind of like build space and fight back with Claw. Right now, Marlon kind of has to like back off. Yeah. So like Baiken doesn't get to do that thing that other characters do, where a lot of characters will super jump and then air dash out and kind of play around that. You never get to do that as Baiken.
Yeah.
But if you can force people out far enough, you can force them to respect that projectile. You can. Tommy's on the way down and it's going to protect you. And then behind Tatami, you can claw, because even if they block claw, unless they're IBing it, it's your turn. Right? So you want to like wait long enough until they give you those openings. And now you can see me like fighting out of the corner with it. Another example, he doesn't actually have the meter for this, for the blitz, but you can throw that if it's not spaced correctly. You have to be really far as Baiken for them to not get this throw on Tatami. But like situations like that are like why you can end up in such a bad spot, right? Because I just start my turn off that Tatami on the IED. And then, I love this. I love that Marlon's such a good player. So this throw is actually so much harder to get if I know my opponent is not IBing this meaty Tatami. It's like the frame advantage is enough that if they don't IB it, it becomes like way harder to do this.
Because you have to wait so much later.
You have to wait longer. But if they IB it, look how like natural this
you
is.
just go
It's such a fast throw that like no one ever techs it basically.
Hey, Sea Leaf, thanks to the rain.
So it was one of the things. It was one of the things I noticed early on.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh nice. He IVs this. I can throw him at later in the set.
Yeah.
I'm just taking like small mental notes of like, when am I gonna need this? I'm gonna need this later.
Yep.
That juicy extra hit. And then this reset, no matter what I did not kill Marlon off of that opening. Even though it was counter hit to Tommy, none of the routes should kill. Maybe burst super, maybe. But I just knew he was really high up, so I was gonna have to end with super if I want to knock down.
Right.
Super does no damage, and it's 50 meter off the table when you have good mix-ups. But I just went for the reset. I didn't expect him to get hit by this. I just didn't want to waste my resources on something that wasn't gonna win me the game.
Yep.
So when he got hit by the claw, I've never felt like more relieved in my life. I was like, oh my god, thank god this just worked. Because he FD'd it early. He FD'd the claw like 2 or 3 times earlier.
Yeah.
So he randomly tech double jumped and then thought it wasn't gonna hit him, and he got hit. I was like, oh, that's so good. But the point being more so like if you're a Baiken player, so off like this Tatami, this already hit really high. So it was gonna be a really awkward combo no matter what. You can do maybe like you can for sure do jump S and then air dash jump D like one more time. You get one more rev for sure. But like I said, she's too high. So she can't get knocked down naturally off of it. Baiken can OB super for the knockdown. I did it earlier, I think, in the set because I actually had like 100 bar. So I was like, oh, why not? I'll just knock down into 50-50. But in situations like this, it's not very clear. She has really good scaling on her JD loops, especially off Tatami, that maybe it would have killed with burst super. but I just know, okay, I'm gonna have to spend all my resources.
Yeah.
Thinking maybe this will kill.
Yeah.
And then I still have to kind of like win the one opening that I'd rather just hit you early. And then Marlon Pai had never represented delay tech forward. So I just knew like this was never gonna work out bad for me.
Yeah.
At least. And they just got hit. So
and if you're not confident that it's gonna kill without a reset, it's usually better to be in a position where like either position you have basically a one-touch kill right afterwards, but in one position you have meter and in the other you don't, right?
Exactly.
Much better to be in the situation where you still have meter and shit. So I like it.
But those are kind of like the little things that go into it. There's obviously like there's a lot of interaction that goes into this game at high level. Like anyone who plays it at high level knows that for sure. I have those, like, I know people have seen me on my stream. I do analysis sometimes, and some of the analysis, like on average, like a best of 3 set is like a little over an hour. Because most of the time I'm trying my best to like explain to people like, oh no, you know, you do this because of that. Like there's so much little tidbits of like acquired knowledge, right? And they usually all factor in a lot, especially because she's got such an interesting toolkit. As straightforward as her game plan is, she has an incredibly straightforward game plan.
Yeah.
And that like, hey, build 50 meter. Like that's actually just the game plan. That's like the game plan. Hey, could you get hits before? Cool. Like that's even better. But build 50 meter, you know, this combo is going to do like 50%. Do that, win 1, maybe 2 more mix-ups, and that's the round. Like, she's very simple. The way that she works, it's just mechanically she's kind of hard. And sometimes, like, in neutral, you have to make these sort of, like, split-second decisions. A lot of the nuance for her comes from your, at least the way I play the game, my block strings. The way that you interact with my block strings. How much do you pull? How much am I allowed to, like, overextend? That like there's so many like little micro situations that I have the level 1 for ready for the opponent, right? And then they do the level 2 and it's like, okay, well I have the level 3 ready. She has a lot of that because of how I wouldn't say good, but because of how flexible her offense can be with all her like weird varied options.
Yeah. And it is like you can probably tell as you play someone, oh, you're rotating, you know, here and not here because you know the matchup, but not this part of the matchup. Or you're not rotating these things at all because you don't have enough room on your mental stack, right? Like, it must be kind of a relief to play against high-level players, especially someone like Marlon Pai, because you can reliably count on someone like him to know at least a pretty strong understanding of the matchup and be rotating at every single possible option, right? So stuff like realizing that he didn't represent delay tech or delay tech forward at the end, if he didn't represent it like by then, odds were pretty good he wasn't going to represent it now, right? Because you had gotten a sense of how he'd been rotating through all the other situations. It's super cool. It's why I love this game, man. Not every fighting game feels like this, you know what I mean?
I've talked about it a lot before, that I think my infatuation with this game a lot of the times comes down to like, you can see that the way they designed the game, I like to usually like reference meter specifically, because there's so many like small nuances to how meter affects tempo in the game that it's like crazy to me. Because I've explained to people before, so people have asked me before, like, hey, what do you do to YYRC? I was like, dude, just block it. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, he's not gonna gain meter for a while. I was like, you're gonna gain meter, he's not gonna gain meter. And people are like, what do you mean? Like, that's busted. I'm like, yeah, but like the game naturally punishes them. I'm like, I'm not saying it's not busted, but like other games, some things are just busted and you can't do anything about it. What if Chun-Li is just whiffing that normal? You can't do anything about that. She's not hurting her meter, she's gaining meter for doing that. But in this game, there's kind of like a lot of natural things that reward you for being patient or for representing different options. Like I know I had this really funny moment with Bears at one point when we were playing, when he beat me in Grands, where he like messed up a combo, assumed I would tech. I didn't tech, and he had to burn 50 meter because he tried to YRC. Right? And it was like, in that moment, I was like, that's why this game is so cool sometimes.
Hell yeah.
Because the subtleness of like, yeah, I chose not to tech. Now he has to spend 25 extra bar. Most like intermediate players would have just teched. And he would have spent his bar, and he would have extended his turn again because you weren't willing to test him to see if he had the patience for that.
Right.
And like normally that happens to me too sometimes. Sometimes I'll do like resets and I'll do tatami and I'll just like press the RC button because I know it's like it's a fake combo you're gonna take out. And like I get rewarded for that kind of thing, and then like I'll fight people, and sometimes they won't tech, and I'm like, oh nice, good stuff. Like people underestimate situations like that.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming through and dropping knowledge on stream. It was a pleasure to have you. To anyone who's watching, I highly recommend following HypedForSlicedBread on Twitch. Like you said earlier, he does do replay reviews and breakdowns on his stream, I'd say fairly often. They're always very deep and very in-depth, and it's always cool to get a player's insight into what's going on in their head as well as their reads on their opponents. So definitely check that shit out. Also, since I see Ray the Warrior in chat, shout outs to Ray the Warrior. You've been holding down an excerpt for a minute now. And I believe, at least from what I saw on Twitter, that he's also planning on breaking into some Exerd educational streams and stuff. He's about to talk matchups, I think, and trying to get folks to just break down different character matchups in this game, which is fucking tight. So go ahead, drop Ray the Warrior follow as well if you want to get that good ass Rev2 content.